Ian, we got a Patreon, don't we?
Patreon.com/CU podcast. You go. You exchange some money. Exchange some money. Goes to buddies. And you get bonus podcast bits. You get the full video podcast. We do hangouts.
Writing.
Got to do a writing soon. And we also do these fun little polls.
This one was close. I wish we got the sealed game one just because it would have tied in nicely to the water population report. In second place, 48% are sealed game collectors being mistreated. Wink! The wink added a lot to that, 40%. And in first place, Ian, advice for retro gamers who want to stream, podcast, or make videos.
I think podcasting is one of those things where, and Pat may disagree with me here.
I disagree entirely.
I think people always want to like start doing a podcast and have a kind of a strict idea of what the podcast is going to do with segments, things like that. They're going to try to do every week. I think trying to do segments every week is a really bad thing to do. Personally, because you're never going to be able to fill all those segments out every week, and they always kind of.
So you're going into the specific in terms of structure.
I would say something like that. I'm just talking about how I've managed to enjoy doing podcasts for this long because I'm not the one who's really doing the marketing and stuff like that. But I think resisting a rigid structure is a good idea. Obviously, it's finding someone that you converse well with does not always mean trying to do a podcast with your best friend. You've got to find people that you can hold a conversation with, people who have a similar level of knowledge to you to hold that conversation, and someone who is more often than not going to probably agree with you in most ways, but not every way. Otherwise, it's going to be extremely boring. You don't ever want to do you don't want an echo chamber necessarily.
Sure. You don't want people jumping into their throats constantly either, but you don't want an echo chamber.
Right. Now I'm leaving it to you because you probably have a lot more worthwhile things to say than I do.
Ian, don't put yourself down, buddy. I mean, these are three different things. Podcasting is the easiest of the three. You just need recording equipment. You can buy a couple of decent USB mics for like, I don't know, even like nowadays, $35, $40. If you want to get a mixer, there's cheap mixers on Amazon that get the job done for like $30. You can buy the combo package for like $60 that you can, under $100 you can do a podcast, even with two people. You could do it. Definitely for one person.
Sure.
That's all you need. Then you buy your podcasting service to host it. There's free ones. Podbean has a free one that you don't get a lot of bandwidth. Like, you can get it done. We'll say $150 if you really want to say it. But then you have to be disciplined. I mean, I've heard of a lot of podcasts or people that do podcasts, and you look and they just stop. So they don't even get a chance to even to breathe and get their name out there, because a podcast is the hardest thing to advertise. There's no algorithm for podcasts. It's not like YouTube. There's no recommendations.
Right.
It's nothing like that. It's not like SEO based, I don't think.
There's never really been like a search engine where you like type in a topic and it pulls up podcasts like it would a YouTube video.
No, people hear podcasts by word of mouth, recommendations to friends. I guess you can spend advertising on it. I don't even know how, social media, but like the podcast, when we did our podcast, it didn't pick up for like a year and a half, at least. It took a bit. And that was with the YouTube audience to help it. I had 80,000 people on the channel before I started the podcast.
I will say one thing, though. At the time that we started the podcast, I think fan bases were still more or less gravitating towards certain personalities on YouTube. Podcasts were still a somewhat...
Yeah.
Podcasts were... I mean, they weren't new by any means, but
there wasn't a ton.
There wasn't a ton of them. Yeah.
It was still newish territory. They were like within 5 years old, roughly. In terms like people doing. There wasn't a lot of popular ones at the time. We would make the top 20 on gaming podcasts. And we were doing it every other week. It was like IGN, Retronauts, GameSpot had one. A couple. It was mostly corporate ones, besides like Retronauts, I believe, in ours. And you have to keep at it. I mean, heck, we've had people call in, say, "Hey, I got a podcast," and on our question, on our Q&A line. And I checked their podcast, and they were no longer doing it by the time I got to their question.
Yeah, it's not a thing that you can do like for 2 months and expect to gain a listener base. No one,
you got to treat it like a band. You got to treat it like you got to grind.
Yes.
If and you got to like it, obviously, but it's not like it's not like doing a YouTube channel where you can blow up. You can blow up with some talent and get in the algorithm and be like a Scott DeWaz where you're talented, you get favored a little bit by the algorithm, people like you, and then you're a sensation and have a freaking TV show coming out in a couple of years. Podcasting is like, there's some, not luck involved, but there's no like magic potion, I believe.
You can catch fire with a topic, but even as we've learned, that doesn't always last forever.
No. So that's the thing about podcasting. So it's like, you got to grind like a band and just work your way up. It's almost like it has to be grassroots, like a band. For making videos, for retro gamers, my advice is just do something you enjoy and don't think you're going to be huge from it. Retro gaming is such a niche of a niche topic. It's like you got modern gaming and then you have retro gaming, which is like down in the gutter compared to like modern gaming in terms of popularity. And they've been done to death. Like the edutainment thing is in vogue right now. Like documentary style, like YouTubers doing topics about, Nintendo, PlayStation, and things like that. Or like Norman Gaming Historian does, the great documentary style stuff. But that's a lot of work. It's a lot of research, a lot of editing. So my advice would be to I don't know, do what you enjoy and you think you're good at, I guess, for that. In terms of streaming,
it's awful, man.
See, I love streaming the commercials every Wednesday, twitch.tv/Country Code. I don't like playing games while streaming, I've decided, because I can't concentrate on the games and then do well at them, especially retro games, and keep track of the chat. There's no way I can play through Ninja Gaiden with a chat going on. No, I can't do that. Or Mike Tyson's Punch Out. No, I need to be zoned in. But then people want interaction. They want to, and it's hard for me for that. So, but some people do it. Some people make a go of it. And they're funny, and they do have memes that show up in their retro gaming. There's a lot of good retro gaming streamers. It's just not for me. I've decided, or the hell I put myself through trying to beat Unreal a couple of years ago.
Oh, right.
A year and a half ago, I was like, I'm never doing that again.
Right.
Because it was frustrating. I don't like being frustrated with people watching me like that. I'm not having fun doing that. I like it to be loosey-goosey, no pressure. Just a hangout. That's how I like it. I like to hang out. So treat it like a hangout.
Like the kids call those chill vibes streams.
Chill vibe streams?
Chill vibes. Chill vibes only.
Chill vibes only? Yeah, that's how I like my hangouts. Talk about burgers and 80s asses and the fashion and the big hair and things like that. That's what makes it fun. And then, reminisce about toys, and maybe I'll cyberstalk someone who shows up in a commercial and they give their full name talking about aspirin. I'm like, what are they doing 35 years later? And it's good fun time. That's going to turn into an advertisement for my Twitch channel, basically, because I don't know what else to say about it. Did you ever think about the mindset it takes to be like a streamer? Like what, putting yourself through that constantly?
Yeah, I have, and I don't know, it's crazy.
Because even I can't do that. Once a week for me is perfect, but every day.
I have friends who do it, and I admire them a lot because that takes
you put yourself out there.
It takes a real sort of resolve that I think some of the people I know I talk to would laugh at me for saying this, but I do think it takes a comfort level in yourself that I don't have. I mean, you have to be. I don't mind streaming if I'm doing it with Vonnie or Lincoln or when we would stream for the marathons or whatever. I didn't mind that. It's when I have to play a game decently,
yes, and
also keep my mouth moving and be interesting,
yes, not
just some fucking slack-jawed dude on a couch. And I get very, very self-aware of streaming. Suddenly, I'll be like, yeah, I just
freeze up.
It's like, oh my god, there's 25 people watching me sit here and do fucking nothing.
But sometimes they like it. They just want a friend or someone to hang out with. That's a lot of it.
I don't know. I wish I could have gotten comfortable with it. It would be a fun way, I think, to hang out with some of my friends, who live all over the place. But I got to have someone in that room with me.
Yeah, you have someone to take the heat, so to speak.
Just someone I can talk to, so I'm not talking to myself.
That's the thing. One important thing to note on all three of these streaming, YouTube, podcasts, you're performing. Yeah. Even if you're thinking you're just on a podcast and you're just talking to someone or talking, you're still performing for an audience. It's a performance still, and doesn't mean you got to be someone else or do something wacky, but you're still performing. And there's a different mindset to that I guess I'm used to since I've been I had a radio show in college, and I was always used to doing things, and I've been on YouTube for 15 years. You're always doing something for an audience, and that's a different mindset. And I think audiences subconsciously realize that, and that they might not turn off if you're not performing, but it's definitely different.
Sure.
It's a performance at the end of the day. You're entertaining people.